Hey guys, I'm a little lazy right now, so don't really feel like doing an intro. So all I'm gonna say is that this is a Moon Knight review, and I guess to open, Moon Knight was kind of a mixed bag, wasn't it? Well, let me talk about it. Here's a video. Okay. Sleepy.
Moon Knight has a lot to like about it. And I mean like a lot. So I guess just let me start there first. First of all, Oscar Isaac is goddamn amazing. Playing so many different alters really allows him to show off his range, and goddamn, does he show it off. From both his Mark Spector alter and his Stephen Grant alter, Isaac is able to bring this incredibly emotional performance as both characters, and it is really awesome to watch, and he deserves so much praise. I also think the soundtrack is just mwah. It's mwah. The soundtrack is, it bangs, bro. It bangs. Like in the first episode when Mark takes over and it just beats the Jackal as Moon Knight, the music that plays, it's so spine-tingling, and that's what I want from a superhero soundtrack, and that's why it's so good. It is so good. Soundtrack, the score, banger. Let me just say the Moon Knight score slaps harder than a Five Guys burger, man. Now I think I'm gonna get into some stuff that bothered me. I should start by saying that I do not hate the show. Sure, it has a lot of problems, but for the most part, I enjoyed watching it. I'm not going to take the time to completely shit on the show right now, but I'm going to go into what worked and what didn't. I just kind of thought that I would say this because, I know people would get mad at me if I didn't, so, here we go, I guess. Unfortunately, Moon Knight falls into a bad habit that Disney Plus Marvel shows have fallen into, and that is that it rushes to the end instead of taking the time that it so desperately needed to tell the story that needed to be told. I think that the show really starts to feel rushed when it gets to the final episode. The final episode is so fast-paced, and it doesn't give enough time to react to what is happening because it is constantly moving to the next thing. If they were given like 2 or 4 more episodes, I feel like they could have made a more cohesive finale that allows the characters to truly show their development. I mean, really, the only characters to get development are Mark and Steven, which is good, but the show really leaves, Layla behind because how quickly it needed to wrap up the plot. That leads me to another thing that I had mixed feelings about. The plot. For the most part, I think that Moon Knight's story is really solid, and the episodes that prove that are episodes 1, 3, 4, and 5. These episodes really tend to get into the psyche of both Mark and Steven. Specifically in episode 5, which is one of the greatest episodes of MCU television ever made. Episode 5 gives us a good look at why Mark is mentally ill, and it gives the viewer a reason to feel bad and understand how he feels and understand why he is the way that he is. And it's super important. That part is just super important when you're making a superhero show or movie. So I really loved episode 5. Now the problem with some of the other episodes is that they tend to remind you that this is an MCU show. What I mean by that is that there's comedy when comedy should not be there. The perfect episode to prove my point is definitely episode 2, which gives us the introduction to Mr. Knight. For those who don't know, Mr. Knight in the comics is kind of like a detective type of character who is kind of like Sherlock Holmes. He is a calm and precise and serious character. In the comics, he serves as a separate alter from Mark's other alters, but in the show he is a version of the suit that appears when Stephen Grant is in control of the body. That's all cool, but it kinda turns this serious character into, well, a joke. It is really upsetting that a lot of Marvel projects tend to use comedy as a crutch. A big problem with a lot of Marvel movies is that they tend to dial down the seriousness with moments of unneeded comedy. Movies that show this problem the most would probably be like Far From Home, Shang-Chi, and probably Civil War. Now these movies aren't terrible. They're movies that I still think are pretty good. The problem with them is that they force comedic moments instead of having them come up naturally. Moon Knight does the same thing. It makes it feel like Marvel believes that nothing will succeed if there is not comedy in it somewheres, which just isn't true at all. Superhero movies like The Batman were very well received, and it had a very serious tone with little to no comedy. This is not me saying that shows like this can't have comedy at all. I'm just saying they have to stop forcing comedy into their shows and movies. I am kind of getting tired of having these real, emotional scenes that make you feel something, just to have another character say something dumb that's supposed to be a joke and that doesn't fit in the narrative. There is literally only two other things that bothered me, and that is the editing and the CG. The CGI in this show is amazing. The effects are amazing. But it continues the trend of MCU projects where for no reason they decide to CG over this amazing practical suit that they make. Why do this? Why would you do this? The suit is so great. Please stop doing this. I know you think that no one wants to see wrinkles on Spider-Man's suit, but I do. So please stop doing this, Marvel. I just want to see a dude in a real suit fight some bad guys. I love the Moon Knight suit. It looks so cool. Why would you CG over that? Please, Marvel, stop using CG over your suits. Okay, next thing. The editing is really weird. I think from the get-go it is pretty clear that this show wants to be more mature than it actually is. During intense fight scenes, the show cuts a lot so that you don't see anything violent, and after a while, this gets really, really annoying. What makes it even worse is that I'm pretty sure that good old Kevin Feige promised that this show was gonna be more violent and that it wasn't gonna pull away from the violence, and then it did exactly that. So it really sucks, and it makes the editing look super, super weird. Despite all of this, I think I still enjoyed the show for the most part. Another YouTuber known as Brown Table tweeted that he thought that the show was good, but it could have been better. And I think that is the best way to put it. Moon Knight is an interesting character with a lot of depth in the comics. But in the MCU, they only take nibbles of that depth, and I think that that's kind of disappointing. But like I said, I think the show still had moments of greatness. I think it really succeeds at showing us the mental health side of the character of Moon Knight and Mark Spector. Episode 5 dives deep into this, and that is why it is easily the best episode of the season. The show could have easily been one of the best superhero shows of all time. But unfortunately, it falls into that typical Marvel tropes, and that really, really just bums me out. I think I was just really hoping for some Netflix Daredevil type storytelling with this show. And I think we do see it, at times, with episodes 1 and 5 specifically, but in the end, it just kinda falls flat. Again, I should preface that the show is not terrible, and I don't even think that I would call it mid. It was just fine. In the end, it was just another Disney Plus Marvel show. Like, I look back at how I gave Hawkeye an 8 out of 10, and I cringe, because in reality, that's a 6 out of 10. I have no clue why I gave that an 8. Maybe it was just the hype of seeing Kingpin again. That's a 6 out of 10 though. Anyways, back to Moon Knight. Sorry, got distracted. Yeah, it was just another MCU Disney Plus show. I still think that Loki is the best MCU TV show, and I know people will probably tell me I'm wrong, but Loki is the only one of these MCU shows that stays consistent the whole season. Moon Knight had moments of greatness, but it also had moments that were not so great, which I explained earlier. In the end, it had great performances, some really amazing moments of character development for Mark and Steven, and it gave a good representation of the struggles of mental illness and the effects of trauma. Unfortunately, the show tends to lean too much into the Marvel formula as it tries not to get too violent and dark. It tends to, force jokes when they are not needed, and the weird editing that attempts to hide all the violence is just really distracting at times, and Yeah, I think that really bums me out. Moon Knight still has some really, really cool ideas. The afterlife that they show in the show is just so interesting. All of the Egyptian gods and the idea of having avatars is something that I really liked watching. The villain, Arthur Harrow, is a really cool, interesting villain with an interesting idea. He doesn't get enough time to develop, and, you know, that kind of sucks, but whatever, I guess. I think the best way to put it is that the ideas of Moon Knight, great, amazing, so good. The execution, yikes. So, for Marvel Studios' Moon Knight, I think I will be giving it a 7 out of 10. It was good, but it could have been great. Alright guys, that was the review. Remember to like, subscribe. Let's try to hit 30 subs by the end of June. And remember to stay safe, stay healthy, and stay sexy. Okay. Bye!